Hello and welcome to My First Dungeon, the tabletop role-playing podcast where we put first-time game masters through their paces as we build and run their very first one-shot, and then circle back around to discuss what went right, what went wrong, and how we can make our games even better. At least that's what we normally do. This season we've been exploring GM-less games, learning to play without a guide, and exploring the wonderfully pastoral game of Wanderhome. Last episode, we played our very first session of Wanderhome without a guide, and we're here today to talk about how it went and what things we took away from the game. Joining me again is our cast from last week's game. First off, we have Michelle Chan Bennett.
Hi, I'm Michelle Chan Bennett. I played Sal Pachinko, the Hellbender, which is a giant salamander native to Japan. Veteran playbook. Happy to be here.
Happy to
feel like
have
I
you.
ruined the game.
Not
So
at all.
Happy to talk about it.
We have Elliot Davis.
Hey, Elliot Davis. I played Tipper, the vole moth tender, pronouns he, him.
We have Abby Hepworth.
Hello, I'm Abby Hepworth. I played Gladish, the ram, the shepherd playbook, and her pronouns are she, her.
And Chinook Tessera.
Hey, I'm Chinook. I played Nuki, the star-nosed mole, they, them, and the fool playbook.
And as always, I am Brian Flaherty. I played Thelonious Trinket, the elephant peddler, pronouns he, him. Awesome. And once again, I'm very pleased that the creator of Wanderhome, the now multi-ENNIE award-winning Wanderhome, is here to talk to us about our game. Introducing once again, Jay Dragon. Jay, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. My name's Jay Dragon. As mentioned, I'm the creator of Wanderhome, and I'm the editorial director at Possum Creek Games. It is a delight to be here. Thank you all.
It's a delight to have you, and congratulations again on the awards win for Wanderhome.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I'm
congrats.
very honored and appreciative that the voters at the Ennies felt that our game lined up in those ways. So, best family friendly game / product. last year, Mouse Ritter won that. And so the little bit of an in joke is that that's the award for best animal game. Is your game has animals in it? You're in the running for best family friendly game.
So my first question is for you, Jay. How did we do?
It sounds like you had fun. Am I wrong? Am I mistaken? Did you?
I think
Did
I
you?
had a ton
It
of
sounded
fun.
like you had fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah, it's an absolute blast.
That I can't. It was very zany, but there's nothing wrong with that. It sounded like you had fun. Therefore, you had fun, right? You played it well. It's a game. I'm not a nitpicker.
And as we say, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. So, we did something right at least.
Exactly.
For everybody else, how did you guys feel about, because I know this is everyone's first time playing a game without a GM, without a guide. How did you guys feel coming out of it? What was easier than expected or harder or different than you expected?
One thing that I, now that I've done it once, feel better prepared to do, but felt very awkward doing was sharing custody of the Hæth and of the location and all those things, and wanting to, you feel that pull to step in and describe something or become somebody or play some part. But I knew I wasn't the person who had initiated it and or initially created that Hæth or something. And so it felt very awkward doing it. But the more we each kind of did it, it was so fun and so freeing, which was lovely. And now I feel like, okay, next time we play, I feel a lot more confident jumping in and taking more collective ownership and not feeling so protective or cautious of what each person, assigning what each person created or.
Yeah, no, the one thing that I noticed was something that you said in the first episode was that the characters really come alive once you start asking the question aspect, asking questions of your fellow characters. And that was especially true in this. I think I had a decent idea of who everyone was. And then we asked those questions and all of that got turned on its head. And I was like, oh, okay, now I see who Nuki is. Now I see who Sal Pachinko is. And that was a really fun, discovery bit. That was one of my favorite parts of the game was just that like very free-form discovery time.
In the original kind of conception of belonging outside belonging, as outlined by Avery Alder and Benjamin Rosenbaum, they talk about this idea of idle dreaming as an approach to playing the game, which is to say that the game is about kind of that exploratory questioning, where it's like you're asking questions of each other and being like, oh, what if this, or like, what if that, or like, I don't know, how about this? And kind of like bouncing ideas around and kind of this, in this way that, is very, like she describes kind of this like conversational wandering. And I wanted Wanderhome, I didn't include that in the text of Wanderhome, but I think that it comes out when you like if you play it for a while, especially, you kind of start to think about it in that idle dreaming kind of way oftentimes, and it's very much what you're describing.
It was a very rewarding aspect of the game that I wasn't expecting to like as much as I did, which was very fun.
I was going to say, I was surprised that we and I think this happened in that conversation and then sort of in the one or two scenes afterwards of like how much we all just aligned on like a tone of the story you were saying. Jay, you were just saying that it was very zany, and I think that pretty quickly we were all just on board with zany, and it was like, okay, we're doing this is a zany game, and like there was I think with imagining playing a GM-less game, I was like, oh well, the tone will just be like all over the place, but like it coalesced relatively smoothly.
I feel like oftentimes the way in which, like, when you're playing a game that's like players and GM, oftentimes because of the different levels of kind of capacity to set the tone, you'll oftentimes get a little bit of like a tonal mismatch, because the GM will kind of have this outsized authority. And it's like when you play Wanderhome and there's one person who feels that way and it's a guideless game, they'll still kind of be able to bring their, whatever kind of GM-esque, pathos or whatever into the space. It just, I think it won't create, it doesn't create the same feeling of like pushing back and forth, because we're all kind of equally bringing our tone. And so I think it allows the game to kind of go in the direction you want it to go, right? And whatever kind of like emotional, like alleyway y'all need or are feeling right now.
Kind of on that note, I know, Michelle, when we talked in episode 1, you were particularly worried about like world building and acting as a game master. And one of the first things that you said was like, oh yeah, there's a bank hidden beneath the world. And that like became the whole first act of the show.
Yeah, I just I went full Upright Citizens Brigade and just said something and didn't think. And that's sort of, that's my trauma. And and so we just went with it, which was great. It seemed like everyone was excited about it. So, because immediately when I said it, I was like, what are you doing? This is supposed to be like, we're supposed to go through nature, and you just sent everyone into a financial institution.
That's great, though.
But yeah, I was going to add everything. Like, I feel like for me, the tone became very clearly like we were just having really a lot of fun after we asked the questions of like exploring the relationship between the characters. And so like that really became the focus, and the fun for me was that it was very low stakes if I just said we're going to go into a bank, because like however these characters interact in any sort of absurd environment would be very fun for the game. So it paid off. But I'll never stop apologizing for it being like there's a bank.
No, don't. I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. It was such a wild swing. So like going through the book, and we were doing the nature's aspects, and like I think we picked like Metropolis and like Mountain, and then I'm like, Michelle, what do you want? And it's like basement, underground, bank. I was like, yes, absolutely. That's absolutely what we're doing.
I will say I was shocked when Chinook was describing a city, and then you said a metropolis, and then I was like, can that be in the game? And I was like, feverishly scrolling through the playbooks to be like, is there a metropolis? Is that a thing? Or did we just blow this whole thing?
Wanderhome, the way I think of Wanderhome, this is a thing that Vincent Baker talks a lot about with Apocalypse World, which is this kind of thinking of it almost like an onion, where there's the kind of like core, like the core of Wanderhome is like talking about things in a Wanderhome-ish way. And then you add these layers on top of it, and you can kind of get very peripheral, and like stuff like lore, for example, like all the lore about the King of the Floating Mountain or whatever, that's like the edge of the onion, right? But like you can peel off layers of the onion and still have the onion, right? Like you can like, and the game is designed with like the natures, for example, where it's like the first 18 natures I think are very in line for Wanderhome, and then the second 18 natures are all kind of intentionally stepping outside of that zone a little bit in different ways, so that your game of Wanderhome, you can either play really close to what the book is suggesting, or you can go out there and it still all feels kind of encompassed in this space, right? It's still all part of the onion, right? Like not all the art feels like it lines up right. There's still the onion structure. Right? They're still playing Wanderhome, right? You can really distill it down to a core, and it's like that core is still present. It's still Wanderhome, you know?
Abby, I know when we were talking about things that we were nervous about, you were particularly nervous about not having a game master to be there to like set the bounds, to say like, no, are you sure? Or to like, you wanted a containment on your enthusiasm or on your imagination. You didn't have that. How did you feel? Was that as big a worry as you thought it would be? Or did that was that more freeing than you thought it would be?
It was, yeah, I think it was more freeing in the end of like it. I guess it's funny because I don't know exactly what my fear was if I was asked to like really hone in on it, because things did get super weird super fast, but in a way that was like delightful and still playable, and we were all like on board with it. And so it was, nobody like broke the nobody made a suggestion that was like so far out of left field that it didn't fit into what we were currently doing, of like, and then it all explodes, or it's like, and now all of a sudden we're in space, and it's like, how on earth did we get there? So it was, things got funky, but it was always within the context of the story. And I think it's because all of us were really in it. And so, yeah, it ended up being like, yeah, it got weird, but in a really wonderful way that felt like we had the freedom to make those kooky swings without breaking anything.
Yeah. I think that like so I've done a lot of work in alternative education as well. And there's a lot of school models that are like private school models that are built around reducing or removing kind of the status of teachers or even teachers in the classroom. And it's interesting how much concerns around those structures mirror concerns around GM-less games, where it's like, without a teacher, the kids will descend into anarchy and chaos and will be Lord of the Flies. And it never does that. I've never met kids who are more adept at like, because the kids, like, so I used to volunteer at a school that's like a school with no teachers, and the kids wrote the rules, and the kids self-enforced the rules, where if you broke a rule, the kid would like write you up and send you to the committee of other kids who would enforce the rules. And I've never met kids who are more little like shit lawyers than them, just because they would all, I'm sorry, but they would all be like, yeah, so in section 3, which I had a hand in writing when I was 7 years old, in section 3, it's against the rules to like climb on the swing after 4 p.m., right? Like they have these like, you know, they know like, and it turns out that when you have a group of people autonomously generating ideas, it can get a little farther away from what you might like initially conceive of, right? Like it kind of strays away from what you might expect. But because everyone's kind of having that hand in building it, there's still kind of, it's like, okay, we're all happy on this weird little island, right? Like it might not look like what you expect from outside, but you know, for all of us over here building this thing, the rules work the way, you know, the things we make work the way we need them to.
Yeah, definitely.
So much fun. I love the idea of just like little kids being little shit lawyers. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so fun. And it's so like nothing is quite as funny as like I was there was like a committee meeting, and so it was like a bunch of kids were there, and there's one like 10-year-old sitting in this big plush chair who was the person in charge of the committee, and be like, order as like the like one of the volunteers who the old man who handles the accounting is like, I think this, and the kid is like, heard. And then like a 12-year-old is like, I don't know about that. It goes against our principles as outlined in this giant heap and binder we have that has like all of our rules. It's really funny.
That's amazing.
I think during this game, we all got a chance to kind of go through and play both our characters and play some of the Kith. And we I know Chinook, you and I kind of swapped Kith a couple times, specifically the worm, the centipede. Yeah, the public transit centipede.
Yeah. Oh, hell yes.
Jimmy John, baby.
Jimmy John. Chinook, when that was kind of happening, how did you feel about like sharing the ownership of those like characters and those elements?
It felt much easier, and like, because you weren't like having to think of like, all right, what's this character going to do next, or like, what is this character, like, you just knew someone would, if like you were doing something at the moment, like, yeah, someone in the group would pick it up and like be like, oh cool, the centipede shows up and does this thing, or like, you had control, but also you knew people had your back in a way that you didn't need to always know what was happening next. And it was like freeing and like liberating, like, oh, I could just exist and something will happen eventually. Like, maybe we'll sit here in silence awkwardly for like a quick second and someone will be like, oh, I should do something, but something will happen. And it felt like, yeah, I had like, as I think the game went on, I felt more and more like, oh, I could just pick up and like send us to a character that someone made, because I want to explore that character that someone made. And I think that's what like led us to that ending that Michelle blew away.
I think it is a good time to talk about Sal Pachinko and what was it, Bobby Linguini?
The elephant in the room.
Because I mean, it's easily my favorite part of the game, the relationship between Sal Pachinko and Bobby Linguini. Michelle, you stumbled into every Dungeon Master's worst nightmare where two characters have to talk to each other and you've got to play both of them. But you did it so well, and it was so much fun. What'd you think of that whole time?
My first thing was like, man, this voice is too similar to friggin' Chinook's Jimmy John Centipede. Like, when the Centipede came on, I was like, shit. I was like, what's Bobby Linguini gonna be?
Like one voice.
No, I mean, it was fun. I was like, I made that Hæth and was like, I love this guy. But I don't know if we'll ever play it. And then Chinook was like, we have to go to Bobby Linguini's house. So I was like, all right, that's what he wants. And so, yeah, I mean, it was like, the biggest stressor was I was like, I don't want them to think that I'm doing this because I want my Hæth to like be in, you know what I mean? That it's just like, now it's Bobby Linguini time. I was just like, okay, we're here, and I feel like I have a really clear vision, so I should just do this character, and I think it'll be really fun. But I felt bad because I at that point felt like I had co-opted the whole game, because I was just kind of like making decisions. I was like, I gotta get the egg from the bank. You know what I mean? And then I was like, and then when Chinook mentioned Bobby Linguini, I was like, okay, well, Bobby Linguini is gonna be able to open the egg. Because in his description, I was like, he can just do any odd job, or like always knows someone that can like steal something for you. You know what I mean? Like, he's really street smart, so he just has like under the table resources or can like figure stuff out. And so it kind of just locked in. But I don't know. I feel like my training brought me to that point to be the two characters, and it was really fun. And it was fun to just kind of like see that it went really well, of me just sort of doing like Italian minstrelsy. I will say I am Italian. So there is some ownership there. I didn't want viewers to be like sort of like their glasses shattering in their hands and like saying Mambo Italiano.
How dare you make fun of Italian people? my grandpa.
And it was fun to get into like food. I love when like I love fantasy food and stuff like that. And then it was funny when Abby was like, no, there isn't something outside of the city with the water in it. Bobby Linguini has to have the solution. So that was a good moment of us like collaborating as game masters when Abby like did a slight course correct. And I was like, oh yeah, Bobby's got it. Bobby's got it. Bobby's got it. Like, without saying anything. Because we had to wrap up. So I feel like I was just going for it, and it went okay. My biggest stress was like, I don't want them to think I just want Sal to have all the attention.
I really think that maybe it comes from like a lot of us being improvisers and things, but it's one of those moments where you see someone like going and you're like, oh, our job is to get out of the way. Our job is to assist this madness. This is the madness that is fun. We will stay on this fun.
Big Bobby.
Big Bobby. Papa loves Mamba.
But it was satisfying that it was like so zany, but it really was true to a character I thought would be useful in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Someone
absolutely.
who could just like do shit for you. So that was a nice sort of coalescing of that, of being like, it was insane and very true to, I feel like, my personality on the team, and then like what everyone was just going for. Like we were just being nuts, but also like that fantasy character worked really well in that environment and ended up making you purple pasta. Like what's more fun than that? I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Midnight Muscadines is a cozy, dark tabletop role-playing game where light and shadow intertwine in a fractured world. Players take on the roles of marmoteers, brave adventurers who journey into the untamed wilderness to collect the elusive Midnight Muscadines, craft magical jams, and protect the fragile light of Nim. Through collaborative storytelling and resourceful gameplay, players weave tales of courage, community, and the pursuit of balance. Will you preserve the light, uncover the truths hidden in the shadows, or reshape the balance of the world forever? Midnight Muscadines is perfect for fans of Studio Ghibli and Sea of Stars who seek to capture the magic of exploration and the heartfelt adventure in a world where small heroes make a big impact. Play Midnight Muscadines as a traditional GM'd game, GM-less, or even solo. Midnight Muscadines is crowdfunding now on BackerKit. Join the campaign at pandeongames.com/muscadines.
I'm Quinns of tabletop role-playing game review show Quinn's Quest, and this is Play to Find Out. Play to Find Out is an actual play podcast that brings notorious old games from the 80s and 90s back to the table. Each season of Play to Find Out, I'm joined by Emily Johnson and Rob Morgan.
Good? Nervous?
Yeah.
You both looked at each other really concerned, like you think what's about to happen is going to be unpleasant. And frankly, I think that's rude.
And together, we explore the TTRPGs of ages gone by. Our goal? To separate the TTRPGs that deserve to be remembered from those that maybe don't. I don't know, Emily. It was the 80s. A lot of people were on cocaine. We blow the dust from decrepit systems to learn how they work. Your 100 on the encounter table bursts out. Right, you've encountered a fog. Get ready. Don't laugh.
Does one get ready for a fog?
Don't laugh. Encounter their unique quirks.
I do finger guns to cover up how I wince.
A weird thing happens as you do finger guns.
Oh no.
And I'm hoping that the Quinn's Quest community will join us in exploring these games too. If you this up, cannot describe to you how much your adventure ends here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because the best way to learn is to play to find out. Play to Find Out is available now on the Quinn's Quest Patreon, but the first episode of each series streams for free on the Quinn's Quest YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Anyway, you failed the Earth Tech roll, and you made jokes while I was doing my exposition, so you don't get to hear any more.
Oh, no. Come on.
I was shook as...
Yeah, and I'm curious. I want to know. What did it? You mentioned the course correction. I wonder, like, oftentimes in DM'd games, there's not really that same course correction. Did that, like, do you feel like there was that? Like, do you feel like you were watching out for each other? Do you feel like that was present? Do you feel that like came forward more, or like how did that? What was the like? Did you notice your playing patterns changed when there wasn't a GM there to kind of give you a structure? Right, we've talked a little bit of that. But I'm just curious.
I was gonna say I feel like it like thinking about the position as a player in a traditionally like GM'd or DM'd game. It's like you're working towards overcoming things presented at you, and there's like a versus element in a way, like GM versus player, not always, and there's a lot of collaboration as well, but it felt like as a player in this, I felt like my job is to like play this character, and also so like the support role felt built into like everybody, where it's like, oh, I like what you're doing, so like I'm gonna like you said, Brian, either get out of the way and let you run with this a little bit, or like pop in and build on it. So yeah, it definitely felt like that was more implicit in my role as a player in this game versus like a GM'd game.
Yeah. So I guess to that point, it was like, I think in like a GM'd game, like your character, like the structures and like your story, the GM like is kind of responsible in like bringing that out. And to a degree with it, like a GMless game, it's like on you to like bring not only like your character to life, but also like to bring everyone else's character to life, and also like help bring like the kits they're playing. Like I think at one point Abby's doing magic, and we're all just like supporting on like a kit that isn't hers, and just like supporting that, and like, oh, what are fun ways you can play with this character and like do things with this character. And I think it's really just like, oh, buying in on like, we're creating this together. It's not just one person's job to explore these characters. It's all of us that have to do this.
I am really excited to go back and at some point in the near future play a play a game of Dungeons and Dragons after having played this, because it has given me a new perspective on like how to be more collaborative as a dungeon master, like how to ask more of your players and how to invite them in more, that I think will be really exciting and really interesting to play another session of Dungeons and Dragons and see how that gets incorporated, how like some of the Wanderhome-ness comes into a swords and fantasy type game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like my Dungeons and Dragons table, like, which was sadly mostly comedians, like we would do kind of what we did, where we would just get obsessed with one thing, like a really small detail that was happening, and just start riffing for like 90 minutes. And then it's like, there's a whole nother element of this. So like, but I would feel this element of guilt because obviously this DM had spent so much time planning like the plot and sort of like the perspective journey that we could take, right? And there was like supposed to be a mission that we were on, like right, like a quest, and I would feel bad because we would spend so much time just experimenting with like powders we found, right, and seeing like what jokes we could come out of that. But that's the ethos of this, right, is that like our mission is just to see what the other people say too and like go with that. And so there was, obviously I'll feel guilt no matter what, because that's, you know, part of my personality. But it was kind of just like we could just go into little details and like play with the kits or do whatever, because the fun was in the relationships between the characters and whatever they were finding, or some weird bank, you know what I mean, that we were just in. And there wasn't, even though we were in a time crunch, kind of, it was like we weren't beholden to sort of all of the work that someone did to put us on a certain course, right? And I think that was pretty liberating.
I think there also is a little, in some ways it felt like there was more connection between each of the players, because I don't necessarily mean it when I say we are holding each other accountable, but it is the kind of thing of like when in again D&D, when somebody does something, you kind of look to the DM like, is that allowed? Are they okay? Like, is this going to happen? And they're the person who is like checking everyone. And this was a lot more of, it felt more relaxed and less like I need to check in with everyone and do sorts of things, of a like, you could connect and build those things. And it felt like a better way to suggest or guide or pivot, and have it not be like a no, or, you know, it didn't feel like a hard no saying it to people. And you're also not counting on anybody else to be like, yeah, nah, that's just not how the game works. So it was a little more connected.
There were none of the solutions or next steps were locked behind any one person's like brain, which was cool. Like, it was like, if you were like, one person's doing something and like you all of a sudden decide, well, like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to work out. Like, here I can jump in and like play the GM for a second and be like, yeah, it worked and we're moving. Like, we don't need to be like check in.
Did it work?
Nobody is holding the gate to the next step of what's happening, which makes it really flow.
A literal moment of what you're talking about happened in the bank when everyone was like, what was the third test to get the egg? And I was like, I just walked up, said it was me. Because I was just like, we could just move. I was like, one, this is a good punchline, and two, we can just move on. You know what I mean? And
we're
it doesn't
done.
have to
We
be a
don't
Sal
need to
exclusive
linger,
thing.
yeah.
Like, the group can move on, and now we have this egg together. So it wasn't like, if we don't solve this riddle, we won't be able to move on.
Yeah, the game's
I was
over.
Just like,
That's
don't worry
it,
about
yeah.
it. We got it.
So after having played a guideless game, so I know I'm very keen to play Wanderhome again. I'm curious from everybody else, if you played Wanderhome again, would you want to have it remain a guideless game? Would you want to play another guideless, GM-less game? Or would you be interested in trying it as a game with a guide, a game with a more traditional game master?
For playing Wanderhome again, one thing that I feel like we could have benefited from, and it's not so much like a GM as it would have been like a benefit of having a person who played it before to like remind us about like tokens and some of the more like, I don't want to call them rules, but like the more structured parts of Wanderhome where it would have been, so it's, playing it again, I feel like I would really like the benefit of having a person be like, remember, there's this tool to kind of get a better sense of that aspect of the game.
And I think that was something that like early on, my like love for mechanics and game design got me like really stuck in a spot where I was like, oh, I really want to like use the tokens and like let this play in. But then like to Jay, what you were saying earlier, we ended up more just playing that core of the onion that you were talking about. And that was great as well. And as soon as I let go of like trying to make the tokens a thing when it wasn't really necessary to have a good time, it was like, we're still playing Wanderhome, even if we're not using all the... It never didn't feel like we were playing Wanderhome, even though we weren't using the tokens. But I agree, Abby, it would be fun to play again and like think about that stuff and maybe incorporate more of it.
And also to see like what that... Because we didn't actually like use the one mechanic of the game, what that...
Only one.
Jay did so much work, and we said, "Nah, we're good. We can do it ourselves."
dude. Of all the work I did, that was the one mechanic is not the container of the work I did.
But I'd say the questions did so much of that work. Like
Yes,
the questions and the pick lists and everything of like did so much of the work of like so we all felt so specific to those characters.
Those were like I joke a lot about like Wanderhome took like 2 months to write and then 8 months to edit, and literally there was a separate editor who is just responsible for every single list in the game. And whenever there's a list, that means that like there was one person whose job was to go through that list and be like, this option's bad, this option's good, this option should be at the front, this option should be at the back. Like every single list got like fine-tooth combed. And I think that, yeah, like, you know, like I joke, but genuinely to me, creating characters who feel very alive and grounded in relation to each other is almost more of the thrust of the text than like the token mechanics. Like the token mechanics are designed to kind of be able to go to the wayside if you're really invested in these other parts of the game, right? Because the game doesn't live in the mechanics, it lives in the, you know, kind of space you're building.
Mm-hmm.
I am very curious to know if we played again and actually use these mechanics, what avenues they would open up to us, like what surprise we would get from like incorporating, oh, I have this token, I'm going to use it in this way. Would we find even more new and more interesting ways to like access different parts of our character, access different parts of the game, or find interesting avenues for the story to go?
The tokens definitely get into, I think, also the small and forgotten gods a little bit, because that's oddly kind of the part of the game where they show up the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I think games that utilize the tokens much more tend to lean much more towards the kind of contemplative, reflective side of Wanderhome, in part because there is a get a token when you leave an offering to a god, spend a token to like ask the gods what they think about something, right? Like there you kind of end up with that little like spirituality loop happening on the side.
And I think we touched on it every now and then very quickly veered right back into zany. We took the small pauses to admire the rooftop, and then we're like, hey, I bet I could eat those rocks.
As you should. That's game. Yeah.
Got to make sure you can eat the rocks.
Yeah, that was the thing that when we were getting towards like the end of the recording, and also being just aware while we're playing that like this was for like a podcast. I was so sad that it was coming to an end. I was like, there's so many avenues I want to go down and so many things I want to explore with all these people and characters and things. But I was like, we got to wrap it up. And I was like, I want to keep going. I want to see more of Bobby Linguini. I want to go down to this lake and meet the was it witch or mermaid, or I want to go see these things, do these places, go see where we go up in the mountain, and yeah, it's addictive.
And New Stork.
Yeah, we got to check out New Stork.
Did we make you proud, Jay?
Yeah, of course. It's always an honor when people play my games. It's really interesting. Like in when you're writing a novel or when you're writing a book, it's like a great act of care for someone to just read the thing you wrote. Like that's very like meaningful and important. It takes so much work to play something than it does to read it, right? Like playing a game is such a deep expression of like, I read the thing you wrote and I liked it so much that I'm going to get a bunch of my friends and deal with scheduling in order to hang out together and then take the words you wrote and like transform them into this second art form that, iterates beyond the book, right? It's like, it would be like if every time someone read a novel, they were like, this was wonderful, I'm going to adapt it into a TV show, right? Like that was how you, that's just what you did when you read a novel, was like, oh, this is great, I'm going to adapt it into a TV show. I'm going to like put on a production of this play. So of course, you did, you had a wonderful time. It seemed like a lot of fun. It was funny. It was charming. It was delightful. And like, yeah, that's Wanderhome, right? That's a game. You had fun with your friends. And, to me, I'm much more interested in games that, kind of get at the the primordial we're playing together, right? And that's what you did. And it was awesome. And that's great.
And that is all for my first dungeon, Wanderhome. Thank you so much to Michelle, Elliot, Abby, and Chinook for joining me as players in this very pastoral season. I'm sure we're all going to be playing in the Hæth again real soon. I know I certainly am. Anything you guys want to shout out before we go?
I'll just quickly plug, Wanderhome is back in stock. We recently got an emergency shipment of 1,000 softcover books. So head over to the website, possiblegames.com, pick up a copy of Wanderhome. It is a gorgeous physical object. I think it really, it's a cool game. When you hold the book in your hands, it hits so different. It feels so different to pick it and toss it around. So do go pick that up when you have a chance. And also, just really quick, Possum Creek Games as a Patreon, patreon.com/Possum Creek, where we put a lot of our upcoming projects, including right now there's some playbooks that might, playbooks I wrote, and rules for magic in Wanderhome, and there's drafts of all sorts of weird things, and articles about game design. So if any of that, there's a podcast, if any of that is up your alley, do check out the Possum Creek Patreon. Thank you.
All I gotta say is long live Bobby Linguini.
Long live Bobby Linguini!
Chinook, anything you want to plug?
We're setting up a Patreon for Bobby Linguini if you want more Bobby Linguini content.
Patreon.com/Robert Linguini.
Robert J.
Linguini.
And Elliot.
Just play Wanderhome. I will second the plug. Go get those reprints. That's what I'm plugging today.
A huge thank you to Jay Dragon for guiding us through this adventure and for creating such amazing games. I'll throw my support too if you haven't already. Support the games. Find them at your friendly local gaming store. Go to the Patreon, possumcreekgames.com, possumcreekgames.itch.io. All the places, grab the games. And if you haven't checked out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, you should also check that out because it's extremely cool. I can't wait for this thing to come out, and that's coming down the line. So something to look forward to.
I hope when it comes out, you might have me on the show again because I think y'all would really enjoy that one.
Oh, absolutely! I've already got it scheduled. It's already gonna happen.
I'm so excited about it. It's gonna be great.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Tune in again next season as we take a turn into something just a little bit darker. But for now, remember, if you're having fun, you're already doing it right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. Woo! Woo! Thank you all so much. This is a delight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, Jay, this was so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
If you're looking for more great gaming content from everyone here at Many Sided Media, you should consider subscribing to the 20-Sided newsletter. It's a free, bi-monthly newsletter for people who love games, make games, and just love making games. To subscribe, just go to 20sidednewsletter.substack.com or follow the link in the show notes.